So hi Rivu, very pleased.
Hi, Paul.
Very pleased to have you on the show this week. So Rivu is a music producer living in Kolkata. And I mean, let's just hand it over to you. I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Rivu. I play guitar. I'm a music producer. I do some work I actually play a bunch of instruments. I play bass with some people. I play guitar with some people. I produce music for commercials and some film work and for my own solo project. I've done some solo work of my own and I've released a couple of albums which are like this blend of synthwave, electronica and progressive rock, metal, guitar, shreddy nonsense. Not to say that that's the only thing I do, but it's just a bunch of things.
And I mean, I've been checking out a whole bunch of your stuff on Instagram and YouTube. Some fantastic playing in there, some great bass playing as well. Some really cool video editing things, music production stuff as well. So anybody who's watching this, please go and check out that, and we'll put all the links. We'll put all the links underneath. So let's talk a little bit about what it was like growing up. I mean, first of all, were you born in Kolkata?
Yeah, I was.
And I guess you've always lived there?
I've always been here. I've just been here. I have my roots here and I'm rotting here. I'm kidding.
I guess you like it there.
Yeah, it's a nice, it's especially nice, you know what, I think one of the most interesting things as a musician or any creative person in this country is you start becoming really aware of how every city has its own like pace at which they like to function. Pace is probably the best word. Like this is the tempo at which everyone sort of functions, where their center of gravity is. Kolkata is a city where everyone's a little bit laid back and relaxed, and they like their evening siestas, and they like to eat, they like to relax a lot. There are people working very hard, but what's really nice about just the fact that that's what is the baseline for the city means that it's a really good, surprisingly, it's a really good ground for musicians who want to do experimental work. Like, we have the space and the time to sort of just open out and try stuff instead of having to worry about, okay, I'm going to play only rock, I'm only going to play like pop, I'm only going to play this, I'm going to play that. We have room for like really interesting avant-garde musicians doing whatever it is that, you know, they feel like doing.
Are there any famous musicians from there that we would have heard of or that we should have heard of?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like, because we are talking guitar, I think one guitar player that everyone should listen to for sure is Amit Datta from the city. Amit Datta's he's been at it for like a very long time, and he's basically the guy who all of us went to for guitar lessons when we were like young or old or any age you are. He is the guy to go to. He's the one who introduced us to the idea of like for the longest time, a lot of us just chug some metal riff or play some rock riff or play Sweet Child of Mine. And then he's one of the first people who guitar players go to understand why things work the way they do. Because we don't really have a formal Western education system of any nature here, but we do have Amita, and he is like the way guitar players in the city sort of think of him is like he is an institution, and he's an incredible player. He's an absolutely incredible, world class doesn't cover it. He's transcendental, really good player.
Oh, fantastic!
So there's him. Another act from Kolkata specifically that I think people should be aware of is Parik and Singh. I'm currently playing bass with them. I'm not trying to plug anything I'm playing in right now. There's a reason I'm talking about Parik and Singh.
Go ahead.
They're old friends of mine. However, they've also been very successful recently, and they're doing very well for themselves, and they've released their third album very recently. They're a dream pop duo, and then they just make this really lovely, dreamy pop, bubbly, joyous, melancholy music that I can only describe as Parik and Singh. But I guess to be really like layered about it, again, it's a layered experience being in India. So I can only really honestly talk about Bengal. So I think it's really interesting to think about Calcutta as a microcosm for what the country is, because I guess There's about 122, if I'm not, I don't remember the exact number. One will have to wiki it. We can just put it on the screen, perhaps. Recognized languages of 19,000 languages in this country. And every language has its own like rhythm and its culture. They're all dialects and they're all their own things, and everyone have their own, every single language, every single people have their own music in this country. And that's true of Bengal as well. We have music here, which is in other languages, and that leads to music that sounds slightly different. Not just because of the fact that it's the language, it's also the way the language sort of flows off the tongue, I guess.
It sounds great. I mean, I think it sounds like there's a lot for me to learn, a lot of things for me to go away and listen to, you know. And I think that so far with this show, it's been such a great thing to, all of the people I've interviewed so far have brought something really interesting for me to then go and research, you know, and that was kind of one of the ideas here, you know. So, I mean, let's talk about your early life. I mean, we talked about a lot of musicians there. I mean, what was the thing that inspired you to pick up a guitar or inspired you to be a musician?
We used to have a car and we used to go on road trips to, from here to a place called Medinipur, which is another place in West Bengal where our grandparents used to stay. And on those road trips, we'd listen to like certain albums like on the way. And part of my my dad's collection, my parents' collection was, there was a lot of Bob Marley, there was a lot of Jethro Tull, but I think the person who really, like, I first heard, I think, something by Carlos Santana. I believe the first album I really did listen to, the one with Smooth on it, basically, was, I think, the first, like, really guitar album that I remember from my consciousness of being a young child. And I heard Santana playing, just bending a high note, and I was like, whoa, that's cool. That's really, like, that's special. That's something. I don't know what that is, but that's cool. I kind of want to do that. And I expressed my interest. I floated this concept with my parents, and they were like, okay, cool, sure, I guess. And then what happens is, I believe my brother used to, my brother who's 10 years older than me, had been playing Hawaiian lap steel guitar for like a while, slide guitar, had been learning how to play slide guitar for a while in his youth. And we had these lap steel guitars sort of lying around, and we didn't have a lot of like money growing up. So because our parents were economically minded, I guess, they were like, what if we took these guitars and we took them to a luthier and just converted them? So we had these guitars that felt like classical guitars with like the widest, chunkiest necks, which aren't really rolled off. It's like super like concave. Like the fretboard was ultra concave, but the bridge and the nut had just like been flattened, and we're like, oh, okay, cool, this is a guitar now, I guess. So we had a couple of those lying around, and that's what we first learned guitar. That's what I first learned guitar on.
And I mean, you mentioned your guitar teacher earlier on. Did you have do you have a lot of guitar lessons? Or are you formally educated?
Mitusa was my first teacher, and I think I learned from him for about 2 to 3 years. And we just learned, just songs, learning how to play stuff by the Ventures, the Shadows, etc. Some Bonnie M. Just learning how to play melodies and getting my fingers around the fretboard pretty much. One of the things that was a big thing in my life at the time is because I was going through high school, middle school and high school at the time. I was a very, as far as guitar is concerned, I was trying my best to be like shreddy and playing chops here and there, left, right, center, everywhere.
So who were those influences? Who were your shreddy influences?
I think a big change in my life happened when I heard Iron Maiden for the first time, when I heard Metallica for the first time, when I heard Dream Theater for the first time. I think the big one was actually catching Joe Satriani live in Kolkata. I think it was 2008 when he had come down to perform, and that was like a huge like mind explosion moment for me.
Yes.
At the time.
So what sort of influences do you have now? Like, who's your favorite guitar players?
Now, I believe around like 2010, like this last decade has been like just an era, but a period of for me to just not detox from guitar music, but just to listen to music as a whole, as a producer, because the last 10 years have really been about just me focusing on production and thinking about the bigger picture as a whole. Like, I think all of this everything started lining up musically, including the fact, I know this is a Line 6 thing, but including the fact that the HX Stomp exists in my life right now. It just lines up perfectly with a producer mindset.
Where did your Line 6 journey start? What was your first bit of gear?
I think the first thing I got was when I realized I was getting into production a little bit. I think the first piece of kit that I picked up was the Line 6 UX2. It had its own DSP inbuilt and stuff. Like, you could just use amp models and stuff on it, and they sounded great for the time. Like, they sounded like really incredible. Like, I've totally used them in recordings and stuff, like from my early SoundCloud. I made the jump to the HX Stomp very recently, and it's been really, really incredible. The HX Stomp has changed the way I think about my rig pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
So how are you using that, and which projects are you using that with?
So I'm using that with basically every project that I'm playing in right now. It's made my, and this is really important, it's made traveling with gear very simple. So normally I've been using a much bigger pedal board with like a lot of stuff on it, with an amp modeling pedal, a separate amp modeling pedal, multiple drive pedals for preamp type ideas, a delay of some sort, some modulation of some sort, you know, the works, etc. And normally it's not that much to carry, but like now I just have one nano small pedal board. And one of the sets that I'm playing currently, I'm just playing just the Line 6 to elaborate on that a little bit, I'm playing with a number of projects. One of them is Parik and Singh, which is a duo pop, dream pop. I think I mentioned them earlier. And I'm playing bass guitar with them, playing bass guitar and bass synth with them. So what we like on stage with that set is to keep the stage really quiet, to be best friends with our FOH. Anyway. And generally we're all just very fond of, I think, keeping the stage as quiet as possible, so everything's happening in our in-ears and there's like minimal feedback, because there's a lot of equipment on stage. And the HX Stomp has been like a hero in that scenario. So
is your stage sound all monitors and in-ears?
It's all backline. Monitors. It's just in-ears. It's all in-ears. No wedges, no nothing. Just that's it. For Parik and Singh set. For the other sets, it's different things because different kinds of instruments, etc. One of the things that I've always felt with the Line 6 ones, since I started using it on guitars and bass, is that even if the stage is entirely silent and like it's in my ears, it still feels like I'm playing a real thing. It feels like there's air in it. It feels like I'm in a room with it. I also play with Tal Tontro, which is a fusion set with Pandit Tonmay Bose, who's an incredible tabulchi and percussionist from the city who's played with Ravi Shankar and with various people in the world. There, the requirements are slightly different because now I have to not only just be like principal guitar player or whatever, I'm playing guitars, I'm also trying to find my way to blend in with sarod, sitar, flute, keyboards, and just like a bunch of instruments which are kind of at like very close mid-range kind of places, and having a global EQ is like a no-brainer. It should be like anywhere else I would have to carry a separate pedal for that, but there's just a global EQ, so I don't need to really worry about it too much. It's just like tiny little bit change, find the frequency. Like it's really fun when it's really fun for me, I think, live, especially when I'm talking to the FOH while we're doing sound check, where they say something like, there's this one frequency that's clashing, but normally when you have like a full like pedal board with everything, it's like maybe I can try this, maybe I can just tweak this tone knob, maybe I can tweak this here I'll just be like, which frequency? Just tell me which frequency. Like, what's the Q factor on it? Yeah, okay, cool, got it. Does that sound better? Yeah, good, let's go.
think you're going to share some presets. You've got some presets that you're going to share with us.
Yeah, I mean, they're fairly simple. I have 3 scenes set on each preset. One of them is just a dry amp with a little bit of reverb just to sort of complement the kind of amp or the set, depending on what band I'm playing with. Where I am playing, the reverb's going to change. It's bound to change. I guess for clean tones, I'm using the Tweed Blues Normal, I believe it's called. Going into a 412 Blackback 30 cab, going into the Courtesan Flanger, going into the Crisscross Delay, and finally coming out of the Double Tank Reverb. That's my first preset. That's like a very simple, clean sound. And if I just need to go through the scenes, scene 1 for me is just the amp, reverb. Scene 2 is the amp with delay and reverb. Scene 3 is amp plus modulation plus reverb. Plus for any other overdrive related purposes, like this is really good for overdrives. I just like having my overdrive easily accessible on the fly. So I just have an overdrive on the side on my board with me. That's it. That's about it with that. What I do is I use very specific amps, which I'm very fond of. I'm using the Divided Duo for somewhere like the in-between on the edge of breakup. I'm really a big fan of this particular amp. Like that's the amp I go to regardless of like which act I'm playing in. If I'm just playing by myself on my own, just going through this, that's my go-to amp. If
you can share that'd be great. Be good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
So I mean, if we could talk about Kolkata a little bit more. If I was to come to Calcutta, like who should I go and see, and where should I go and see them?
Like most scenes, everything is very layered. There's multiple different kinds of gigs happening at different times in different places. There's really good cover gigs happening in clubs. I guess one of the famous clubs that we have in the city is a place called Someplace Else, which has regular events taking place. We have a Hard Rock Cafe, which is also very close by. One of the venues that I highly recommend at the moment is a place called Skinny Mo's Jazz Club. We have had a lot of really good venues for a long time, but we played an opening act at Skinny Mo. Not an opening act. I mean, we played the first set ever at Skinny Mo's when it opened up with a band I play with called Kendraka. It's a trio, avant-garde. We don't like calling it jazz. It's improvised music, whatever it is. A trio. So Skinny Mo's is a good place to go for a regular jazz set of like there's multiple jazz bands that come and perform there. There's a really good venue also on the completely other side of the city called Five Mad Men. Very, very good venue, but a lot of Bangla acts play there. Like a lot of Bengali. It's a bar and a venue where a lot of Bengali rock and Bengali music takes place. But I think another really good place to check out music if you're in the city, venue-wise, is literally just any, especially in the September, October, November period, because we have this giant festival that takes place here called Durga Puja, which is a festival dedicated to the goddess Durga. Now, this is important Kolkata stuff because Durga Puja is like a citywide interactive installation art festival. It's the best way to explain it because every pujo that takes place in every like locality is not just a small little temple that's there. It's like a full themed, artistically sound pandal kiosk, big giant marquee type thing that's been designed with a thought in mind, with a subjective view in mind by various artists over like a few months. And then there are gigs that happen at those venues. At those places, very specific ones. Like there's one at Dover Lane, there's one at, and they're innumerable. There's way too many of them, and there's one happening. There's at least a few happening every year around that September, October, November time, and that's where you can go and catch like a lot of really good Bengali rock music acts like Fossils, Cactus, Lokhi Chhara. In many ways, that venue is not so much a place; it's more a time. It's just September, October, November period. Just come down and just hang out and just look up quickly on Facebook or Instagram who's playing where. Just go and catch it. It'll be awesome. Right. Colleges are a great venue for Bangla acts as well. Just playing these giant like oratoriums in colleges and stuff is a big like that's a place where you have like 20,000, not 20,000 people. Just like it looks like that when you're playing on stage. It just looks like a sea of people that just show up for those gigs. So
it sounds like sounds like a great scene. It sounds like a really thriving scene that you have.
Yeah, it's cool. It is cool. It is. Every scene has its own I guess, shortcomings. But overall, optimistically looking at it, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool scene.
So, and where do you go to buy guitar gear there? Like, where's the go-to place to go and buy an HX Stomp or a Helix? Or?
Oh, yeah. A place to get a lot of like Line 6 gear generally, and like Line 6 support, I guess, is Musician's Mall. Really good store, very well stocked. Very, very cool people there. Very just... it's nice to find stores because we've had a lot of stores growing up. They're all great, but it's just really nice to have like a friendly group of people who know what what the gear is and know what they're talking about. So it's nice to hang out in a place like that. And there's others as well, but yeah, for Line 6, I believe Musician's Mall is a great place to go. Yeah.
Right. And do they get a lot of high-end stuff in there as well? Is that like the dream place to?
That's one of those places to go and just check out like really cool gear. Yeah. Because a lot of places will have access to high-end gear, and you have to order it and they'll bring it in. Musician's Mall generally just keeps that stuff just ready to go. Go and try it out, talk to them, figure it out, buy it, get out.
So I think we've covered a whole ton of stuff there. I definitely got a much better idea of the place than I did beforehand. And one day I would love to come and see your beautiful city and your beautiful country. But thank you so much for giving us an insight into that. Thanks so much for sharing the preset and everything as well. And we'll have to stay in touch. That's most definitely. So I mean, thanks Rivu.
Thanks so much, Paul, for having me.
Yeah,
It's really fun.
No problem. I will see you soon. Cheers, bye.